everyone, and welcome to the For Fun of Knit podcast. My name is Linda, and I'm coming to you from the theoretically sunny southeast of, of Ireland. It is pouring today. Anyway, welcome to my returning viewers. Thank you so much for your comments. What a hoot. So looking forward to this next series of vlogs. And if you're brand new, welcome. If you are not aware, this is the intro to the FAB14 in February cast-on party to get me started on my knitting in 2026. So if you missed my last video, I just briefly outlined that the month of December was a bit of a gong show for me, so I really couldn't do any planning or ideation, imagining of what I wanted to knit in 2026. And so I actually decided in 2026, I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants and just cast on whatever I feel like casting on without too much planning. Now that said, over Christmas, I started watching the 12 cast on in 12 days sort of videos. Which inspired me to really think about, okay, well, that would be a fun way of deciding what next to knit, but without having to actually make too much of a plan around it. My challenge is there are so many things I want to knit. Can you relate? Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming because all of these patterns come out and all your friends or knitty friends are talking about what they want to knit, or your podcasters that you like to follow, they're knitting amazing things. And all I want to do is cast on everything. So I started thinking about that a bit, and I did want to put a little bit of framework around it in that I've got a beautiful stash. And I've had some yarns in my stash for a significant amount of time. So I wanted to see if I couldn't come up with a few patterns that I could really use my stash, but then I also have a stash of patterns that I've been buying over the years. So I started thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could actually get to those patterns that I really want to knit and use deep stash yarn that I've had for quite some time. So I spent quite a bit of time thinking about that, a day or two, thinking about that, and I started going through all my old patterns. So I started basically on Ravelry, I sorted by date added, and I went to the last page, and then I started scrolling. I had 16 pages of patterns, people, 16 pages. Okay, that's gotta end. There's no point in buying patterns if I'm not going to knit them. So that stops now. Famous last words. It's another hobby within the hobby. But I had 16 pages of patterns, and a lot of them I didn't like. I started scrolling through them, and when I was trying to match yarn and trying to choose a pattern, I ran into some problems. Either I no longer liked that pattern, so bad on me, a good reason to be careful as to what you're purchasing. So the pattern didn't really excite me anymore. The second thing I ran into is it required a certain weight of yarn that maybe I didn't have, or if I had it, it didn't excite me for that pattern. Then it was, I want to knit some cardigans, and I have a lot of indie dyed yarn. And then the thought of alternating skeins when you're knitting back and forth in a cardigan, I thought, well, no, I don't want to have a stripey effect. So that was challenging. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe I could knit the cardigan in the round. But steeking superwash, my old stash is predominantly superwash. And that's one of the reasons this was another benefit of me doing this, as I have a lot of superwash merino from when I first started buying yarn. I've since balanced out my stash with a lot of non-superwash, which I'm really, really enjoying. But I still love these yarns that were superwash, but they don't steek well. So it's not what I wouldn't do a pullover and then steek it and turn it into a cardigan, because I'm just worried that it wouldn't stick. So that wasn't helpful. There was another thing. What was the other reason? Did I write it down as to why? Oh, some of them were bottom up. Depending on the pattern, that's not a problem. I tend not to do bottom up. I've only done a couple of bottom up, so it's not my preference, but that didn't automatically eliminate a pattern. But it did make me think about, well, how easy am I going to be able to fit that pattern the way it's constructed? So bottom up was a little bit of a challenge. And sometimes I had the right yarn. It was beautiful. It would have been perfect. I just didn't have enough of it, because back in the day, I thought buying 2 or 3 skeins was enough. 4 skeins might have been enough, but no. Depending on the pattern, for my size, I need 5 to 6 skeins of yarn. So then I started thinking, okay, well, maybe I could combine yarns to make this pattern. But then I was really diminishing the idea I had in my head of how beautiful this sweater would be, because I was trying to piece yarn together. So there was a lot of thought that went into that. And so now I've come up with, believe it or not, patterns that I'm really excited to work on. And I'm going to say 80% of them are older patterns, and 20% of them I had to go into the newer patterns. 1, because I really want to knit them. 2, I think you'll find it more exciting if there's a little bit of new things in there. But 3, coming up with the number of patterns that I wanted that were all old was difficult. So the end result of this whole exercise was my 16 pages of patterns has been whittled down to 10 in Ravelry. So I got rid of 6 pages worth of patterns. Yes, I paid for a lot of them. Some of them were free, but I paid for a lot of them. So, you know, lesson to Linda, don't waste your money. So that's one of the caveats about that. It's one of the dangers of having a hobby, and when you get all excited about it and then time passes and your taste changes, and I'm sure most of you can relate to that. But anyway, so the FAB14, I'm digressing. The FAB14 in February is me casting on a new pattern every day for 14 days and wrapping it all up on the 15th. Now, I'm not doing Vlogentine, but I am wearing pink in, in respect to February being a very romantic month. So what I am wearing is the Hallou by Caitlin Hunter, and I'll put a little video here of me standing up so you can see it better. And I knit this in Sanisgarn, was it Sanisgarn? Super Soft? Or is it Holstgarn Super Soft? It's Holstgarn Super Soft in the color Putty, and some Knitting for Olive Silk Merino Mohair in the color Ballerina. I love this oversized sweater so much. Whew, sorry, fluff. So much. It's amazing. So now back to the FAB14inFEB. FAB14inFEB. So I'm going to cast on. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. I'm just so excited. I'm going to cast on 1 new pattern every day for 14 days. Today's video is the intro, and I'm just going to choose a pattern for today. You're not going to see too much video on today about me working on the project, but tomorrow's video, I am going to review how far I went. So today I'm going to choose a pattern. I will review the pattern in depth and tell you why I chose that pattern. And I'm also going to tell you what yarn I paired with that pattern and why. So that's what we're going to cover off today. And then tomorrow we will review how far I got, what I thought of the project. And then we are going to choose a second project. And I'm going to go into detail around the pattern and the yarn that I've chosen for that. And the following day, I will show you my progress, talk about it, and then we will continue on. So that is the plan for the next 14 days. Yes, I'm crazy, and thank you to all of you for having a great attitude about my approach. I know it can be overwhelming for some of you, but fear not, I don't get overwhelmed by numerous whips. If you can see in the background, I have assembled my whip tree that I was talking about. And yeah, there's a few bags still on my whip tree. So I am still going to knit on my current whips while doing the FAB14 or if not, after the Fab 14. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have any specific agenda around my whips. So that is all good news. So on that note, are you ready? Fab 14 in February, I'm going to choose 14 things to cast on during that time. But I actually have selected 19 projects I'd like to work on, and I've left one blank, and I've called it on a whim cast on. And so while I'm only going to cast on 14, I've got some variety. So it's even going to be a surprise to me, a little bit of a surprise to me, into what I actually cast on in the next 14 days. Because there's 5 extra projects in there. So who knows what that's going to be. Now, before I spin the wheel, and I'm going to show you what the wheel looks like. This is what the wheel looks like. And you literally push the button in the middle and it spins and it's going to make a selection. So before we do that though, what I thought I would do is really quickly list the patterns that I've chosen, and then we're going to spin the wheel, and I'm going to include the photos of, like the pattern photos of each of the patterns at the end of this video. It's going to be too much editing for me to put all the pictures in, and it will take too much time. So for you to watch, you can, if you want to see the patterns, I will put them in the same order that I've listed them, all 19 patterns. So you can take a look at the patterns and see what, have a visual of what I've actually chosen. So where's my glasses? My glasses. Okay, are you ready? Here are the pattern choices, the 19 pattern choices. So I actually have 14 sweater patterns. I have 2 mitts, 1 pair of socks, 1 blanket, 1 hat, and I think that's it. Is that right? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yes, that's what I have. And then 1 on a whim. So I have 20 choices at the end of the day. So let's start with the accessories, the non-garment items. So I've had this pattern forever. It's the Winterberry mitts pattern. That's one. The Winterberry socks pattern is another one. You wouldn't know Carla unless you follow her, but one of the ladies, one of my friends on Instagram that I have befriended years ago is Carla, and she is doing a scrappy basket of socks sort of make along for the year. And so I just put scrappy socks because socks are always something that I want to knit. So that's one option. The Jelly Roll Blanket by Kay Jones. That is a crochet project. The Baker's Hat, again, I want to make another one by Emily Russell, and I want to make that one to match my Stephen West shawl and the fingerless mitts that I did. I also want to knit another pair of 2 at a time mitts for gifting. So those are sort of my accessory type of projects. Now, the garments that I want to knit. And trust me, there are more that I want to knit than this list, but these are the ones that came to mind easily for me to match the yarn. So the Stockbridge Cardigan by Isolde Teague, the Crisscross Cardigan by Isabel Kramer, the Lemongrass Pullover by Joey Locatelli, Daydreamer Sweater by Andrea Mowry, Lume Sweater by Sari Norland, the Idez, I don't know who that is by. Why didn't I look that up? I'll try and put that here if I can remember. It's a cardigan. I really like that one. I won't tell you why. Sorry, Idez. I'll get into that when we go into the patterns. It's so tempting to start talking about all of these patterns. The Monday Sweater by Petite Knit. That's just a classic. Marled Magic by Stephen West. And you all might be going, what? That is like so off, in terms of style compared to the other selections, but I'll explain that. If it comes up, it might not come up. I want to make another Doodles by Yumiko Alexander. I made one a couple years ago, but it's a little thick. The yarn I chose was a little thick, so I want to make another one of those. I want to make an Agave by Yumiko Alexander. I want to make a 1908 sweater by Thea Coleman. I would like to make a turtle dove from Espace Tricot, and that would be my second turtle dove. I'll go into more detail on that one. I would like to make a lily, also by Yumiko Alexander. And I will say that for having 3 of her patterns in my list is because I really would like some more summer selection. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And the last one is the step-by-step cardigan. So those are my choices. Yay! So that's all 19, and then I have the on a whim choice. So let us just go to the spinning wheel. This is what it looks like, right? Okay, and so now we're gonna spin. What does it say? 2 at a time gift mitts. Okay, so that is what I am casting on today. I have my yarn all prepared, so let's take a look at the pattern, and it'll be a quick review. I know most of you have seen the pattern, but I will do a review for those of you who have not seen it, and also pair it with the yarn that I've chosen. The pattern is called, oops, glasses. The pattern is called 2 at a Time Fingerless Mitts by Liz Maloney. Pictures up here. You require worsted weight yarn or equivalent. You're using a US 6 or 4 millimeter needle, and you only need between 100 and 125 yards of yarn. So this is fabulous, especially if you've only got partial skeins left over. I think it's a great idea. What I love about these particular mitts are me personally, I can knit one of these mitts in about 4 hours. So for me, that's maybe 2 or 3 evenings. So I know if I am gift knitting a 1-week commitment, and I have got a very nice, credible gift. These mitts also have a thumb gusset. A lot of times you will find free patterns on Ravelry, but they're just knitting a tube and then basically casting off some stitches or putting some stitches on hold, and then you knit a thumb. But they don't actually leave an increase or have an increase of stitches to take into account this section of your hand where your thumb obviously is broader than up here. So, and what ends up happening is you end up putting the glove on, it fits, but it's tight across your palm because there's no room here for this extra width. So having a thumb gusset, this is a free pattern. So I highly, highly recommend it. What I do is I haven't used worsted weight yarn yet. I have used a DK held with a mohair. In this particular case, as this gift knit, this is deep stash for me. Look at these colors. Oh my goodness, I love them. I hope you can see it in this light, but this is a beautiful speckled off-white, actually it's close to white, but with blue and purple and pink and a little bit of black speckles all the way through a Surrey alpaca. So this I bought, this is a Malabrigo Rios in the color, I think it was called Mulberry. I don't have the tag anymore, but I remember buying this. I was going to knit a hat. I fell in love with the color because when I first started buying yarn, I used to go on the Jimmy Bean wool site and look at their sales, and every once in a while they would have some fabulous merino. And no, I wasn't going to knit a hat. I was looking for a DK weight sock yarn, not understanding that socks needed to have nylon in them, or it would be better for them to have nylon in it. And when I got this, it was so pretty. Look at it. It is just super pretty. Superwash merino held together with, now here I might be playing yarn chicken a little bit. This is, I had 35 grams left of a lily and pine Surrey alpaca in the color London Fog. And I don't remember what I used it for. Must have been a gnome or something, but I don't actually remember what I used it for. But these two combined are going to be an absolutely beautiful pair of 2 at a Time fingerless mitts. So on that note, I'm going to cast on and get knitting. I don't have a lot of time today. I have shelving being put in, yay! But I will see, at least I got to cast on. That's the whole goal. There is no requirement for me to knit a certain amount or even finish. The goal of these next 14 days is to cast on. So that's it. You might see a little bit of me knitting. You might not, depending on how well my day goes. But if not, I will catch you tomorrow and tell you all about it. Bye for now.